Tonight at 10, the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Afghanistan as the Taliban continue their rapid advance across the country. Desperate for food in refugee camps springing up in Kabul, these civilians have fled from Islamist fighters who now control around 2/3 of the country.
Many of those we've met here have run once, twice, multiple times, and now they've come here to Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. From here, they say, there's nowhere else to go.
The Taliban's advance is unprecedented. Our correspondent has had rare access to the militants and their commanders.
It's fighting. People will die.
You're the ones who started the fighting here, though.
We won't accept anything other than Islamic rule.
The Americans say the capital, Kabul, could fall too within 90 days, also tonight. A man who works at the British Embassy in Berlin appears in court on suspicion of spying and passing documents to Russian intelligence. After record high grades, one of the UK's top universities is offering students £10,000 and free accommodation to defer places on oversubscribed courses. And the extreme heatwave sweeping the Mediterranean, wildfires in Greece as Italy sees what may be the hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe, 48.8 degrees Celsius.
And coming up in the sport on the BBC News channel. Doubt and out. Stuart Broad's season is over while James Anderson is an injury doubt for England's second test against India.
Good evening. The Taliban's advance across Afghanistan is unprecedented. The hardline Islamists who once harboured Osama bin Laden are gaining ground fast as they sweep through the country. As ever, it's the civilians who are paying the highest price. More than 1,000 have been killed in recent weeks, and many, many more have been pushed from their homes as they're caught up in the fighting. A US-led military coalition to oust the Taliban first began in 2001 following the 9/11 attacks, but now most of the foreign troops have pulled out. 454 British Forces personnel or MOD civilians lost their lives. Nearly 2,300 US troops have been killed, and more than 120,000 Afghan military, police and civilians have died in the conflict. As the Taliban continue to capture territory, questions are being asked about what was achieved over the past 2 decades and what the future looks like for Afghans. Our correspondent, Yogita Limai, reports from the capital, Kabul.
Desperation on a scale not seen in decades. Thousands have arrived in Kabul in the past few days. People who had homes and jobs, who led dignified lives, forced to leave everything behind. Angry that they've been left on their own. No government, no humanitarian agencies. Malaka's sons are in the army. She says only the poor go to the battlefield while politicians watch.
We've seen this camp grow by the hour. People have been coming in from different parts of the country as more and more provincial capitals, more and more cities are being taken over by the Taliban. Many of those we've met here have run once, twice, multiple times, and now they've come here to Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. From here, they say, there's nowhere else to go.
To get here, they've survived dangerous journeys, past Taliban checkpoints and active front lines. Gulalai says they moved from one place to another for 3 days before they got to Kabul. She has 4 children. The youngest is 2. 10-year-old Khalida was in school taking her exams when the Taliban attacked. Many had to leave their dead behind to save their own lives. Sheer Mohammad's parents died in the violence. Many here have fled from Kunduz in North Afghanistan, which fell to the Taliban on Sunday. Today in Kabul, we bumped into these men who we'd met 4 weeks ago in Kunduz. Then, the city was a refuge for tens of thousands of people who'd fled fighting in villages. Now we've learned that in recent days, mortar shells landed in these camps. We don't know what happened to the people we'd met there. Most of the north of the country has been taken over by the Taliban now. Those who've escaped to Kabul are staring at uncertainty. Fears that the capital too could fall within weeks. Yogita Lemay, BBC News, Kabul.
Taliban fighters now control around 2/3 of the country after making rapid advances against Afghan forces as foreign troops withdraw. The Red Cross has warned that Afghanistan's second city, Kandahar, is being rocked by intense fighting between government forces and Taliban militants. They have already taken the areas that you can see here in red. In those areas marked in yellow, the Taliban is threatening, but neither side is currently in overall control. Our Afghanistan correspondent, Sikandar Kamani, has been given rare access to newly captured Taliban territory and has sent us this report, which was filmed by Fred Scott. It contains disturbing images.
New territory, new weapons, all captured in this unprecedented Taliban advance. Caught in the middle, Afghan families right across the country.
How can you justify all this fighting when it's causing the deaths of thousands of ordinary Afghans, thousands of ordinary Muslims?
No, چې په جنگ کې خامخا وژل کیږي. په جنگ دی. ځکه دا جانب هم وژل کیږي، هغه جانب هم وژل کیږي. نو موږ کوشش خو دا مخکې ما درته ویل چې موږ کوشش کوو چې خلکو ته ضرر ونه رسوو. نو بیا خو خامخا جنگ دی چې وژل کیږي، هغه به راځي پکښې.
You're the ones who started the fighting here, though.
موږ جوړ نظام خو ما مخکې درته ویل چې افغانستان جوړ نظام و دوی رااله. او په افغانستان کې چې اسلامي نظام نه وي چې هر نظام یې موږ نه پرېږدو، موږ په خلاف مقاومت کوو.
Shortly after the interview ends, the sound of helicopters. The Taliban are still vulnerable to government airstrikes. This is Balkh, a town with ancient roots, thought to be the birthplace of one of Islam's best-known mystic poets, Rumi. Now it's under Taliban control.
We came through here a little earlier this year. Back then it was still under government control. Now it's one of around 200 district centres taken by the Taliban.
Schools are open here, though in other Taliban areas, girls are reportedly prevented from attending. The market is still busy. Women have apparently been allowed to come here without male companions if they need to. But elsewhere, Taliban commanders have reportedly banned them. Haji Hekmat is a local Taliban leader. Despite what I've been told, he insists they haven't made the burqa compulsory.
You said that women have to wear the burqa, the chadar. That's right, isn't it?
Nah, مونږ اسلامي ټولنه دا وعظ او نصيحت کوو، زور زبردستي نشته. خو څه وایو چادرې په سر کې ستر فرده وکړي، شرعي حجاب وکړي، دا مو وایو مونږ ته. خو زور زیاتی نه، دعوت د لارې نه.
What happens if someone doesn't want to wear it?
نو چې وانه غوندې مشکل نشته ورته. خپل شرعي حجاب به کوي، شرعي حجاب خپل سر به پټوي، سر او حجاب به کوي. نور معنا دوی ته زبردستي نشته دی.
I heard that members of the Taliban here caught one man listening to music and to punish him, made him walk for 2 kilometers without any shoes on until he fainted as punishment.
The next day, a young woman was killed close by, allegedly for wearing immodest clothing. The Taliban denied involvement. They seem to want to play down their more hardline views internationally, but at times are in tune with some conservative Afghans. Many here praise improved security. Accompanied by Taliban fighters at all times, it's hard to know what residents really think. Having already captured many rural areas and some border crossings, the Taliban are now pushing in on Afghan cities. Half an hour's drive away in Mazar-e-Sharif, the government are still in control. There's a greater sense of personal freedom here that it's hard to imagine the Taliban accepting. Many fear the Taliban want to resurrect their practice of brutal punishments. They insist they were not responsible for this flogging, supposedly filmed last year, but they did recently hang 2 child kidnappers in public. On the steps of the government's old courthouse in Balkh, the Taliban's legal system is in force.
For many, the Taliban's brutal form of justice is what scares them the most about the group. But for others, they at least offer a swifter resolution than the notoriously corrupt government courts.
The judge here says he's never ordered serious corporal punishment and that there's a system of appeal courts. But he defends stoning adulterers and cutting the hands of thieves.
Many people here in Afghanistan and around the world would be horrified.
همدغه د غلاو د ډاکو د چورو چپاول په نتیجه کې په زرهاو خلک تباه شو آیا دا به غوري کې د یو کس لاس پرې شي او ټول خلک امن راشي نو خلک محفوظ شي.
The Taliban are capturing new territory on an almost daily basis. They're still facing fierce resistance, but they vow to install what they term an Islamic government. If that doesn't come through the stalled peace process, they say, it will come through more violence. Sikandar Kamani, BBC News, Balkh.
Well, let's go to the Afghan capital now, and our correspondent Yogi Telemai, who is there. As we saw in your report, so many people fleeing now to Kabul, but can the capital hold?
Well, it's a very unpredictable and volatile situation, and on the ground it's not looking good. The US press are reporting today that intelligence officials in Washington, D.C. are telling them Kabul could fall within 30 to 90 days. That's unexpected, but so is what's happened here over the past week. The Taliban so quickly gaining control of provincial capital after capital. In some areas, we know that they walked in and took over without a fight from the Afghan forces. Afghan soldiers in some areas were not paid, were not given ammunition. Sometimes even something as basic as food was not supplied to them. Morale is low among the forces here, and the government recognizes they need to change that. Today, President Ashraf Ghani went to Mazar-e-Sharif, which is a very important city for Afghanistan. And Afghan forces say they're also fiercely fighting to defend other major cities in this country.
Yogi Telemai in Afghanistan. Thank you. A 57-year-old British man has been arrested in Germany on suspicion of spying for Russia. The man, named only as David S., worked at the British Embassy in Berlin and is accused of passing documents to Russian intelligence in exchange for cash. Our security correspondent Gordon Carrera has this report.
A Berlin spy case involving British secrets and Russian spies. German prosecutors allege that a man who worked here at the British Embassy in Berlin passed on official documents in exchange for money. He's alleged to have been working for the Russian intelligence service. Their embassy is located not far away in Berlin. The man who worked as a security guard was arrested yesterday in Potsdam, southwest of Berlin, and his apartment and office were searched today.
We take extremely seriously the indications that the detainee's Secret Service activity was done on behalf of a Russian intelligence service. Because spying on a close ally on German soil is absolutely unacceptable, and we stand in full solidarity with our British friends.
So what do we know about the suspect? He's been named simply as David S., his second name withheld under German privacy laws. He's a 57-year-old Briton. He was employed locally by the embassy as a contractor, so not as a diplomat. And it's alleged he was working with the Russians since at least November of last year.
The arrest came after what I understand was an intelligence-led operation run jointly by German and British authorities, including the security service MI5 here and Metropolitan Police. Once they felt they had enough evidence, a German judge issued an arrest warrant.
Cold War Berlin was the spy capital of the world. The Gleinecker Bridge there was known as the Bridge of Spies because of the exchanges that took place between East and West. Spying has changed since then. Secrets can be stolen remotely over cyberspace. But that does not mean that old-fashioned human spying, as seemingly witnessed in today's case, has gone away.
It's unusual, but it's not surprising. It would be more surprising if Russia were not doing this. It's no surprise that they are conducting espionage against a country that they consider to be their adversary, the UK, and it's also not surprising that they get caught in the process, which is quite reassuring.
So far, this potential security breach at the embassy does not look to be too serious, but it does serve as a reminder that beneath the surface of a city like Berlin, spies are still plying their trade. Gordon Carrera, BBC News.
Our Europe correspondent Mark Lowen is outside the court where the British suspect appeared this afternoon. And Mark, what happened in court and what now?
Well, Sophie, this is Germany's highest criminal court here in Karlsruhe, and it's where David S. appeared this afternoon, facing the German legal charge of engaging in intelligence agent activity. Now, we know that the judge accepted the arrest warrant and remanded him in custody. He will not be granted bail. But beyond that, perhaps predictably, this intelligence story is shrouded in mystery. The German authorities are not telling us what happened inside the courtroom today. We don't know whether David S. issued a plea or responded to the charge. Similarly, we're not being told where he's now being held and for how long. German law does not have a maximum pre-trial detention period. But this is, of course, a high-profile case, and presumably the legal authorities will be keen to move the process swiftly along. They will now be making further inquiries. David S. will have access to a lawyer as the German authorities seek to understand just how far this alleged case of British spying for Russia in the heart of Berlin really went.
Mark Lowen, thank you. The latest government coronavirus figures show there were 29,612 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, which means on average there were just over 28,000 new cases per day in the last week. Nearly 6,000 people are in hospital with coronavirus. 104 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours, which means an average of 87 deaths a day in the past week. 89% of adults in the UK have now had their first jab, and just short of 40 million people have had both jabs. That's 76% of adults. One of the UK's top universities, Leeds, is offering students on oversubscribed courses £10,000 and a year of free university accommodation if they're willing to defer their place. It comes after a record number of students were awarded top grades this year after their exams were cancelled because of the pandemic. Here's our education editor, Bronwyn Jeffries.
At Leeds, students were getting their first look around campus, tours for those starting this autumn. Leeds isn't offering places in clearing, and with lots of students with good grades, they're asking some in business and law to wait a year.
We're going to make them an offer to defer to next year with an incentive of a cash payment of about £10,000 and our fee for their halls of residence in the first year being paid by the university if they choose to make the choice to defer. We're not putting pressure on anybody to make that choice. It's an entirely free choice.
Leeds is also offering to take extra medical students after other universities were overfull.
Universities are working to make sure that students land in the right place this year. But the A-level results have thrown up a wider debate about what will happen when we go back to exams, how grades can be managed to make sure that students from every kind of background have a decent chance.
Labour says children in the north missed on average an extra week in class last year. In the northeast, more families needed help from free school meals. A-level results rose least in this part of England. There are worries about the long-term impact of the pandemic.
The lack of access to IT, space to work, the impact of COVID in terms of their attendance rates throughout the year, which has been horrendous. And I think going forward, we very much need a proper education recovery plan.
Isabella was looking round Leeds with her family. She's starting here this autumn. Her younger sister, Francesca, will face GCSE exams next summer.
It matters to me that everyone gets the grades that they really achieve, and I feel like with teacher-assessed grades, people have got the true grades that they deserve.
How do you feel about doing exams next year?
I think the content should be reduced. I think the government should consider reducing the content because we have missed a lot of Year 9 and Year 10.
There will always be that, not cloud, but that label, won't there, that actually those were the children of the pandemic years or whatever, but they shouldn't be viewed any differently.
Most students do get their first choice, and there's still a chance to find places across the UK in clearing. Bronwyn Jeffries, BBC News, Leeds.
Italy may today have registered the hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe. A reading from near Syracuse on the island of Sicily registered 48.8 degrees Celsius, but that still needs to be verified. It comes as firefighters continued to battle wildfires on the island amid the ongoing heatwave. Meanwhile, thousands of firefighters in Greece have been battling for more than a week now to contain wildfires that have destroyed huge swathes of land. The flames have been fanned by the country's most severe heatwave in decades. In the southern Peloponnese region, fires overnight forced many villages to evacuate. Crews from Britain, France and the Czech Republic have joined the efforts to help. Our Europe correspondent Bethany Bell reports.
Cutting away anything that can burn. These British firefighters have come to Greece to help stop the catastrophic wildfires.
As you can see behind us, trying to open this road and help with the fallen tree, just to get access to the community and the houses up here.
Olive groves have gone up in flames. What matters now is to stop new blazes from spreading. So the team is making fire breaks between the burnt areas and the trees which survived.
The fire swept through here last night and some of the trees are still smouldering. The team is trying to draw a line in the sand between the green and the black to prevent any more flare-ups. It's hard work and it's punishingly hot.
We lend the team our drone to give them an idea of the lay of the land. The extent of the destruction is huge.
27 years in the fire service, never seen scale like this. Seen flooding on this scale in Europe, but not wildland fires. So it's immense. The land is burned right across.
Another fire sparks in the undergrowth. The team's Greek liaison officer rushes to put it out. A firefighting helicopter carrying water flies past the house where Yorgos and Stella live. Their family has lost 700 olive trees.
Others have lost more than us. My main worry is about the environment. The trees that have been burned are more than 50 years old.
The situation is volatile. When we drove down this road this morning, there was no smoke. Now there's fire. With the wind rising, their fears this will be a long and difficult night. Bethany Bell, BBC News in the Peloponnese.
Lionel Messi, one of the world's greatest footballers, says he's extremely happy to have joined the French club Paris Saint-Germain and hopes to continue winning titles. The Argentine striker signed a 2-year deal after his dramatic departure from Barcelona at the weekend, a club he'd been at for 21 years. Our sports correspondent Laura Scott reports.
Their life was in Barcelona. Now it's in Paris. It's a move no one, including the Messi family, saw coming this time a week ago. Behind the smiles, how's it been for the man at the centre of one of the biggest football transfers in history?
It was hard to sleep, it was hard to rest. These past days I was anxious about the uncertainty. And the change for the family was complicated until we could get things going and make progress on the agreement with Paris. From there, it was about thinking ahead, a new chapter, a new experience that will be really nice for my family. So now I'm looking forward for it to start.
PSG already boasted a formidable squad, including Messi's former Barcelona teammate Neymar and World Cup winner Kylian Mbappe. The addition of Messi, on around £500,000 a week, means there'll be fewer excuses if they don't achieve their main goal of winning the Champions League. It's also prompted questions about how the club can balance the books, given football's financial fair play, or FFP, rules.
There's a lot of people wondering how you can afford to have such an amazing squad and stick within FFP. Can you tell us, please?
We follow the financial fair play regulation from the day one that we started. If you see that we're signing Leo, that means we have the capacity to sign him.
Messi has the world's attention on him today. What the fans want to know is when he'll make his first appearance for his new club. And when he does, the focus will be on whether he can translate the success and the trophies he achieved with Barcelona to his new home here at the Parc des Princes. Already the fans are treating him like a club legend, many rushing to the shop to have his name on their backs.
It's a crazy moment. It's incredible. It's a childhood dream. He's the best player in the whole world.
What a difference a few days and a lucrative new contract makes. Enjoying a kickabout with his children on this, his new lawn, Messi already looks to be making himself at home. Laura Scott, BBC News, Paris.
And finally, for the first time in 182 years, women are allowed to wear trousers at this week's Henley Regatta. The dress code has been updated for the stewards' enclosure to state that women can wear jackets or blazers with trousers or trouser suits or dresses or skirts with a hemline below the knee. The change was made after a petition launched by a 23-year-old student from Oxford. And that's it from us. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Good night.